Hey, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us today. Sister Modupe's Raw Vegan Soul Food Show. I know you said, what is she talking about today? I am excited, right? Because we're going to talk about being real. And that means real from your head to your toe. Okay, so I know you can't even guess what I'm talking about today. Sister Modupe, we're going to talk about soy. That's right, soy. The soybean. You know, we're talking about soy because folks y'all got to get real, right? I can understand eating some of these products out here as transition food, right? These imitation meats, these meat analogs, right? But let's get real. Something's either good for you or it might not be good for you. So we're going to go on and take a look at everything from the history of the soybean to how it's processed to look like a hot dog or look like a burger, etc., etc., okay? So we're going to start out looking a little bit at the history of the soybean, right? So soybeans originally came from China, right? They were grown in China, and you might have thought, oh, China, Japan, whatever. China originally, Japan later, then to the United States. So you're probably wondering, why is George Washington Carver in this picture? Well, the genius, right? He realized through his research that soybeans help to refertilize, so to speak, re-enhance the soil, you know, because people here don't like growing food like they're supposed to, right? You can't keep growing corn in the same field 20 years and expect the soil to stay fertile and such. So he realized that using soybeans, you could enrich that soil. And so he had quite a history of not only doing that, but also coming up with a lot of products for using soybeans. Okay, so guess what? A lot of people don't know this history. Mr. Ford, that's right, Mr. Ford of the Ford Motor Company, they decided that they had this plentiful thing. He said, wait a minute, I'm making cars. Maybe we can use some of this stuff to make car parts, right? And I forgot to say, one of the reasons they used a lot of soybeans, right? They grew a lot of soybeans was not for human consumption, but for the animals. It was feed. They used a lot of it for feed. But Mr. Ford, working with Mr. Carver, came up with a lot of products, everything from using for oil in the car, making car parts. Do you know he made a car that was almost entirely made from soybean byproducts? Plastics, that's right. You can process that being enough till it becomes a plastic, right? Okay. Hold on to that thought about plastic and soybean, okay? All right, so lots of different products made from this particular plant, and, you know, that's great, right? Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about foods that can make you sick if you try eating them raw and such, because in the article I'm going to cover about soybeans, I was reading, it said that soybeans, you eat them suckers raw, oh, you're going to be sick and possibly die. So I thought, well, I don't want people to say, well, she's picking on soybeans, and there's other things you can eat them and make you sick or die. Okay, so let's cover for a moment some of those things. Let's scroll through. Don't eat them raw. Let's keep going. Well, pufferfish, okay? I know about how those are poisonous. Castor, it only took kill you. Now, people remember having to take castor being the oil, because grandmothers would come to you and say, okay, I want you to clean out. We need to detox you, so they want you to take some of the oil, but you can't eat those beans. They're poisonous. They will make you very sick and possibly die. Let's keep going. Almonds. Now, this is a picture called sweet bitter almond. It's flavorful and such than what's called the sweet almond. But this bitter almond, don't eat it raw. It will make you very sick. Well, countries eat a lot of this type of crop, or if you don't prepare it properly, you will become very ill. Rhubarb, you can eat the stalk. Matter of fact, when I was a little girl, we used to eat the stalk. It used to grow in my backyard. Glad I didn't chew on that leaf, because that would have been bad news. Tomatoes and potatoes, you can't eat the leaves. If you got potatoes and green, don't eat them. They've got chemicals in them that can make you really sick, including when it starts sprouting. Okay, you can see there's a number of things Mushrooms, we all know about, don't eat poison mushrooms. Try picking them yourself unless you're an expert, right? Okay, so we're going to go on to the next slide. I just wanted to show you that I'm not picking the soybean because there's other foods that eat quite eat them raw. I don't know what you're doing with them. They can make you ill. Just like I say, I did not know that raw soybeans can make you very, very ill. So look at a few other foods and understand, like chickpeas. To get inside that pit, isn't it? So don't eat those pits. Rhubarb again. We've got nutmeg. Nutmeg. See, I found some really interesting stuff, so I thought I'd share it with you. So look at the links to later so that you can go take a look at yourself about these particular foods. Again, the potato. We're gonna keep going. Almonds again. Raw honey can be a problem if it's not dealt with properly. Leaves and such. Tuna. Now, this was one I wanted to stay on. I know it sounds like I'm sidetracking, but when I find some information that I think is really, really important, I wanted to get it to you right away. Do you know, scan down just a little bit, the FDA recommends children and pregnant women do not consume tuna at all. Today, I found this out. I did not realize that. I had heard about don't eat too much. I'm like, don't eat too much of the poison? Come on. But this is the first time I saw that they talk about children and pregnant women. Don't you hear about kids eating a lot of tuna fish sandwiches? And pregnant women, not at all. So just wanted to make sure to get that to you, that information to you right away. Cut the tuna. Okay, and some of the others that we saw, cashews, I knew that about cashews, have an oil and such in them, so they are all steamed. You do not get cashews totally raw. They have to be steamed. So I think I have one more slide, one more show I'd like to show you that talks about some foods, some different foods. This is just to put into a seed of thought into your mind that we really have to be very selective about what we eat and how it's prepared. Okay, there's a couple different ones here. We saw, about the mushrooms. We saw about the fish. This one's the elderberry. A lot of you might take elderberry juice or things like that, or even eat the flowers. Great. Don't eat any other part of that tree. Really bad news, okay? The almonds were and berry pits, and another one. That wouldn't occur in one apple. Let's see what's next on this list. The tomato and tomato leaves. All right, so notable omission. Look, nutmeg. How many of you ever heard that nutmeg was bad news if you do it wrong? Nutmeg. I love putting it in pies, raw pies I make in smoothies, but gotta be careful. Okay, so the next show I want to go through with you is now a focus. Oh, do we have one more? Oh, we got one more. Okay, so we saw about lima beans. When I get information, I like to get it. Kidney beans. Ackee. Those of you who have been to the ackee plant, people love it. They prepare it like scrambled eggs. I haven't had ackee yet, and but if you eat it before it's ripe, bad news. Look at the statistics. It said that 23 Jamaicans and 100 were killed, died from eating the ackee before it was ripe, and 194 were sickened. And that was over 3 months. That's just 5-year numbers. So my husband because I'm looking at him all shocked. I'm so like, when we go to Jamaica, ackee is only eaten by people. It's ripe. I ain't playing with that. There's the elderberry again, the bitter almonds, and this puffer or blowfish. Man, that is taking your life in your hands. They say if the chef don't know what he's doing, you gone. Okay, so let's get back to soy. I just want to show people I'm not about soy is, if you eat that, it's poison. There's other foods too, but we finna get deep with the soy, all right? So first of all, to say, there are a lot of people who say that soy can be good or not good for you, okay? Personally, okay, well, I'll do personally later. Let's go on and look through here and understand what soy is about. Now, this is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about where you get a product. Let's see if we can scroll down. We might have to go back up. But I want to scroll down and just show people what the soybean looks like. Okay, boom. That's what the soybean looks like, right? Does that look like a brown hamburger or a pink hot dog to you? So what I'm saying is that it doesn't look anything like the end product. And when I do food, raw vegan soul food, I'm making food that is whole food and real food. That's, again, back to the song. I want you to focus on understanding you want to eat real food, not chemical names you can't pronounce, not something that is so processed it looks far different, and now you wonder if it has nutrition or if it's plastic because of all the processing it's had to go through. So is soy bad for you or good? Okay, so we're going to go through this particular article. I found this one really helpful, and again, we'll make sure to put the links at the end of the show. Okay, so soybeans are legumes like peanuts and other beans, because peanuts are not nuts, they're legumes that are in a shell or a pod, right? So soybeans can be eaten whole when they're immature. They're called edamame. You've probably heard of edamame if you go into a Japanese restaurant. Sometimes they'll, or an Asian restaurant, sometimes they might put them on the table, steamed, salted, and people eat them like peanuts, but they've been cooked. They're not raw, remember. This is the article I was telling you about that mentioned that they're bad news for you if you try and eat them raw, right? Because I'm a raw vegan most of the year. And so I have to understand what I can and can't eat raw. When I was in Africa, first thing I said, okay, what can I eat raw? So I was wise enough, right, to not think I can just go pick up anything and try and eat it raw. You want to find out those things that agree with the body, are safe for the body to eat raw. So again, I'm checking into soy over the years. You know, you hear a lot about people eating soy burgers and soy hot dogs and all those kinds of things. But I've been hearing news in the last several years about more research that's done on the effects of soy. Now, yes, people in Asia and Japan, China, they eat a lot of soy, but they don't eat soy the same way we do. At least they didn't. And when they weren't following a Western diet, so to speak, a Western eating lifestyle, things like cancer and heart disease and things like that were pretty much unheard of. But now, since they're eating more like Western folks in the West, products from folks designed and created in the West, they're starting to have more ailments like people in the West. So when I talk about soy, when you've heard of soy milk, maybe you eat those meat substitutes or meat analogs, but do you ever read the package? You're like thinking, oh, I'm going to go vegetarian or vegan. I'm going to buy these meat substitutes. I'm not going to eat meat. And sometimes people say, well, this is what I'll eat from now on. Or they say, well, I'll use this as a temporary solution since I like meat and I'm trying to get off of it, da-da-da-da. Okay, well, you just can't grab anything without understanding what it's made of and how it's made. So again, soy is used in soy milk and as a substitute for dairy and meat substitutes. It's also used in fermented foods like things called like miso and natto and tempeh, okay? So one of the big things with soybeans now is that they use so many herbicides and insecticides and artificial fertilizers just to keep that production high, that now you have so many chemicals on the soybean and in the soybean, because now they put the chemicals in the bean and they went in and GMO'd it, genetically modified it, so that it now has all the chemicals in it. So like if a bug eats it, it dies. Well, guess what? You're biological. So if you're eating it, what is the effect on your body? Now, that's not even talking about the fact that it is so processed, right? If you're not eating simple fermented soy, then you're eating very highly processed soy. And remember I said Mr. Ford of Ford Motor Company? Yes. They processed that soy. They were able to process it until they can make it into plastics, right? So these soy products you're eating, these burgers, these hot dogs, not only are they highly processed, meaning superheated and things like that, spun, they actually have big machines that spin it so the protein stretches out. That's why you can get those things that are chewy. They also add a lot of wheat, and we're going to talk about gluten-free, a way to eat gluten-free and why. That'll be one of our next shows. But that is so processed. Are you eating food or are you eating plastic? Now, so the issue is that all this extraction from the soybean, they found that it's very cheap, and now it looks like it has this nutritional profile, And so now they want to put it in everything, right? So even if you're a big meat eater, guess what? They've got soy in so many products, even your meat products, even your packaged products. It's almost like a landmine to try and not eat soy if you've decided not to eat it, okay? So now we're going to come to reasons why you may not want to eat it, all right? So you might say it has some nutrition, but there's consequences to the nutrition in soybeans, right? So one of the things that we talk about is the fact that the soybeans, once it's highly processed and extracted like that, it's no longer a whole food, that it will have a lot of chemicals in it that we call interrupters, right? They interrupt the flow of how the body naturally goes through its processes, because the body takes on the chemicals from the soy, or the chemicals, the biological chemicals that are in this processed soy, and your body can't really tell the difference. So it will start using those chemical things instead of the ones that your body naturally produces. And what happens is those things can cause what we call become what we call endocrine disruptors, right? The body has all this pre-programming, and it's supposed to work a certain way, and it produces certain chemicals. Well, if you disrupt or interfere with those things in the body the way they naturally flow, like estrogens. A lot of people have heard of estrogens. Women have a lot of estrogen, that's what makes us women, and men have a little bit of estrogen. Well, if you have all these things out in our water, our air, our foods that are estrogen mimickers, okay, they mimic or they act like estrogen. Now you have men who are eating a lot of something that is very similar to female hormones, yes. And so they give the animals that people eat, the chickens, the cows, a lot of hormones because they want them to grow fat, or they want them to give a lot of milk, or they want them to produce a lot of body weight so that they can get better prices at the market. But there's a consequence to that. And so one of the things that happens is that they say that it can change and cause a problem with your genes. And once that's happening, oh my mercy, all kinds of interesting, not desirable effects happen. So like I say, you can say there's some nutrition in this processed soy, but what are the consequences? What are the things that come along with that? So for women, they're saying that it can cause things like it may interfere with natural functions in the body, like hormone balance, reproductive organs, okay? In men, like I say, now if a man is eating a lot of that stuff, anything may happen from the fact that he may grow breasts, start getting a lot of body fat in places where women usually have more body fat, like, hips and, things like that. And also it will cause problems with reproductive activities, the below the belt activity, so it can happen, it mess with everything from the prostate to other parts and functions in the body. So we don't want that. No food is worth messing with our bodies, right? Causing our bodies to malfunction. All right. So the next thing that we want to look at, I've talked about it causing problems with your endocrine system, is that it can also cause problems with, there are some studies that talk about breast cancer. Promotion of breast cancer. I don't want to find a cure. I want to talk about prevention. So some people are going to be more susceptible than others. Some of it may be genetics, but some of it may just be our lifestyle. Maybe you're highly stressed. Well, you don't need to be eating something that might have a chance to become opportunistic in the body and cause problems with the way your body functions, like or causes malfunctions. So women who may be susceptible to breast cancer for whatever reason, soy just may not be a food that they should eat at all, right? And women are not the only ones to have problems with breast cancer. Breast cancer also occurs with men. All right, so the bottom line is that you just don't want to be dealing with it. You see the heading here, they talk about soy, testosterone, and male reproductive health. So soy is not something that just messes with women's reproductive health. It can also cause problems with men's, right? So now there's studies on both sides of the fence. The issue is that a lot of the studies that are pro all this processed soy, they're sponsored by the industry that either produces products with the soy or maybe the soy agriculture folks. Come on now. That doesn't sound like that is going to be honest, fair science reporting, right? Because you can make numbers and studies say anything. And so the thing is that, again, if you've got some tendencies, some issues, some problems, a weak prostate, whatever, this is something you want to avoid eating. Let's go on. Soy may interfere with the function of the thyroid. I have heard more and more people have problems with their thyroid gland. So if there's even a small possibility that this will interfere with your thyroid function, leave it alone. There's a zillion other things to eat. Like I say, I recently became allergic to pineapple. I don't know why, but guess what? I can find a whole lot of other things to eat instead of trying to force myself to eat something that doesn't agree with me. Now, look at our babies, right? Our future. And plus, these beautiful souls aren't sent here to suffer. So don't give the children something that may cause problems with their bodies. They're growing and they have brains to develop, bones, their organs, all of that. So there's been studies that show that girls might likely go through an earlier start their cycle earlier if they're eating things like soy. Yes, well, no, this wasn't happening in Japan or China or whatever, not before the Western type products, because they were eating more fermented soy, not soy that's been highly, highly processed, because sometimes when you process something, the negative issues with that food or that product become heightened when you process it, because now you're isolating things, you're killing off some of the nutrition, like either enzymes that might be in the live beings or some of the minerals are defaced and things like that. So now you just kind of have nothing but only the bad part of something because you've processed it so much. Now don't take my word for it. Do lots and lots of research, because we're talking about your life, your quality of life, your children, your family's quality of life, and you want to avoid those things that don't bring elevation, good health, just negative problems. You don't want to bring that into your dinner table. Okay? So there's no question about it. Of course, breast milk is by far the best thing. And then if you have to go to a formula, there are other formulas out on the market that are not soy-based. Okay? So fermented soy, which I spoke about earlier, may be safe in small amounts. That's for some people. Again, if you've got some different types of health issues, you've had breast cancer or whatever, just leave the soy alone. If you're having prostate issues and stuff, leave it alone. I say, again, the reason I did the song in the beginning about get real, to be real, eat real food. So, for example, if I'm going to make a burger patty, I can use things like beans that I've, like chickpeas, because most beans you can't eat raw, but chickpea is one you can. I can soak and sprout those, grind them up, combine them with other things like maybe quinoa or something like that, and make a burger, right? I haven't added a ton of, chemicals that I can't pronounce. I haven't processed it in any other way than to soak it, to sprout it, and grind it up so that I know exactly the ingredients that are in there. I haven't taken away from its nutrition. Again, eat real foods, eat whole foods, because there are so many people that are so sick, suffering, weakened, and we're not here to live that kind of lifestyle. We're here to enjoy life, be healthy, so that we can share and uplift and support each other to elevate and expand. But if you're sick all the time, if you're eating things that cause constipation, that are going to cause systems in your body to malfunction, how are you going to have that enlightened, healthy, elevated, happy life? Joy. We're talking about joy. So no food is worth taking your joy away. So yes, there are studies on both sides of this, right? Some say it's good, some say it's not good. I say err on the side of safety, because again, there's a bazillion other foods out there to eat. And as our other show that we recently did showed you vegetables, fruit, vegetables in particular have the full spectrum of amino acids, meaning that they are complete proteins, and you don't have to go to these meat substitutes, these meat analogs, all these things full of soy and wheat, and we're going to get to why to avoid the wheat, be gluten-free. We'll get to that in a show soon. So the take-home message again, a variety of studies on both sides of the fence. Make decisions that work best for you, because somebody else might be able to drink soy milk and on and have no problem, but it just may not be a good thing for you, because your lifestyle, who you are, your biological makeup and things is not exactly the same as someone else's. Okay, so some studies may be valid, some may not. Remember, people can make a study say anything, just like with statistics. And at the end of the day, I'm going to read what it says here. It is important for women who are pregnant, plan on becoming pregnant, or are breastfeeding to avoid soy and other sources, because there are other sources, and that'll be another show. Soybeans are not the only source where you have all these estrogen or female hormone mimickers, and we need to avoid. I'm going to give you a hint. Some things are as varied as lavender. Yeah, I said lavender, so tune into the next show so I can tell you some issues with things like lavender and other types of food. So we just want our women who are pregnant, plan on becoming pregnant, or breastfeeding to avoid this so they don't have issues with their own health or their baby's health, because these endocrine disrupting compounds are real. Okay, so avoiding soy formula is very important as well. It should only be used as a last resort, is what it says here. And I say find another resort if it's going to cause a problem for a baby, because you actually can find mothers who have either excess milk or that kind of situation. You can actually buy milk from other mothers and such. So, like I say, do your research. Make sure you take care of yourself. It's very important about what we put in our mouths. So I look forward to seeing you next time, and we want to thank our sponsors today at LA King Tex. That's right, lakingtex.com. Go take a look at their website and find out how you can do the best thing for your business, reach thousands of new customers, keep your regular customers informed by being able to send a text message to their phone. That's right, I said a text message to their phone. How would you like to send a text message to 10,000 phones at one time? That's right. So check out the website for details. You can call 323-316-3659. 323-316-3659 for more details. Great way to build your clientele. Until next time, love you. Thank you for tuning in, and do your research. Your life's important. See you next time. Sister Mo Dubois signing off. Peace.